Supreme Poobah,
Ruby Craft,
and this is
Dub Tape Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Dub Tape Podcast, episode 3, continuing Millennial Adulting Parenting Edition, if you will. I'm your host, the Supreme Poobah, the Poobah Supreme, and I am accompanied by
Enchantress Divine, Ruby Craft.
Okay. I was going to say it, but you beat me to it, and I forgot my intro. So
you sure did.
This is the Dub Tape Podcast, and I put it up again. Yeah, dig it. So, last episode we were talking about millennial adulting, which really encompasses a lot of stuff, and we was just talking about a gang of stuff that kind of resonated with us. And we live on one part of the world, you know what I mean, and there's hundreds of thousands of people on the planet Earth, and there's absolutely no way, well, there is the internet, but there's absolutely no way that we can know how everybody's living at the same time, right? Because you can't be in two places at the same. So we pretty much just gave a little slice of our life and how we came up on this side of the earth. And we're going to share it with y'all. And again, if you got stories or if you got something you want to say, chime in, become a fan, all of that good stuff. Don't be afraid to hit us up in the comments. Gmails, emails, ski-mails, it doesn't matter. Hit us up. Let us know. dubtapepodcast@gmail.com. My lovely co-host did a great job of reminding me of what the Gmail was last episode. I thank you for that. And here we go. Millennial Adulting Part 2, the Parenting Edition. Now, we are parents. And how is life for you as a millennial adult parenting?
Well, first, I started early and finished early. My daughter just graduated high school. So I feel very accomplished.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I was able to see her graduate and become the young lady she is. And she is now. The disrespect is real.
My finger slipped. I swear to God, my finger slipped.
It's so real. No, but I'm very proud of the young lady my daughter's become. I'm very proud of it. And now she's getting a taste of adulting.
She kind of jumped right into it,
but
too.
She is a Gen Z adulter, so we're going to see how that pans out for her.
Gen Z adulter.
Yes.
I'm going to have to fact check that. I'm getting new to the definitions and things of like Gen Z and millennials and silent. I think the other name for that, the silent generation, was like the radio generation or radio kids or something like that.
Yeah, probably because they didn't have TVs then.
Oh, that makes sense. That's a dope name, though, the Radio Kids.
Radio Kids.
Damn, that should be the name of the podcast, the Radio Kids.
Do we know any Radio Kids, though?
My grandmother.
See, I don't have that luxury. So, and actually, technically, so my daughter's great-grandparents were probably Radio Kids because her great-grandfather fought in World War II. So, but they have passed. Mm-hmm. And I'm no longer married to their grandson, so I wouldn't have had access to them anyway.
Divorces.
So another segment of millennial adulting. It's so real, all the shit that we're going through. Because, growing up, you didn't think like you would see other kids' parents go through all these different things. And you're like, well, my parents this and my family that or whatever. Like some of the stuff is unheard of. And now we're adults and, the things that shocked us as kids, because we didn't see a lot of divorced parents when we were kids.
A lot of single parents, but not a lot of divorced parents.
Right.
Like that word wasn't we knew what it was thanks to like movies and shit like that. Or you'll get like those episodes on like, Growing Pains or something like that. Like, I think mom and dad are getting a divorce. And it's like,
right. And it was so taboo.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, well, that's the beauty of being a millennial is like we've like so many of the things that were taboo when we were kids, they're no longer taboo.
Some of them still should be though. Something just
like what? I would love to hear this.
Well, that's for another episode. But something, because some things is just best left kind of like, like it's like you go on the social media, everybody know what everybody doing, and it's kind of like that's, to me, it's kind of played in a sense, but that's just the way the world has evolved.
Right.
But I do think there are certain things. It's kind of like a recipe, right? You don't change the recipe; it just keeps going down from generation to generation, and everybody enjoys it. If it's a whack recipe, then you should probably get rid of it.
Right.
But yeah, Gen Z. Just so that I don't forget, because I pulled it up. Age between 8 and 23 years old.
Right.
Post-millennial generation will take the lead in a few decades. And thanks for the reminder, I guess.
Yeah, right. And my nephew's considered Gen Alpha because he's only 7. My niece and nephew.
Gen Alpha.
That is Gen Alpha.
So okay, I found something. Just so that we can kind of like get this out of the system, and I hopefully won't have to bring it up again. So it's like these are the 7 generation types, right? And it's the greatest generation. That's a dope name too. And they're born from 1901 to 1924. Then it's the silent generation, born from 1925 to 1945. Mm-hmm. The baby boomer generation, born from 1946 to 1964. Then you got Generation X, born between 1965 and 1979. Then you got the millennials, a.k.a. the greatest generation. Right. I like that name. We need that name. They're not even around anymore. They're not around. They're not here.
They sure aren't.
Let's borrow it.
Who's going to tell them?
Yeah.
Who's going to stop us?
Hey, they don't need it anymore.
No, they sure don't. They sure don't.
And technically.
Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. I've met a couple centennials. I think that's what they're called. The people who live to be 100 or more.
Well, that's if you make it to 100. You be a centennial, but you don't get your armor until you do that. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm saying the centennials are part of the greatest generation. So some of them are still here.
Yeah, this is true.
You're going to have some angry old biddies come and knock you on the knees with a cane.
I was going to say something too, but I got way too much respect, to pass on their doom. So
nah, man, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right. I want the generation. I mean, I want the universe to handle me with care, and not with disregard.
Right. Correct.
So millennials, 1980 to 1994, Generation Z, 1995 to 2012, and Gen Alpha, 2013 to 2025. They sound like they getting ready to fight fucking, Terminator and all of that.
Right.
Like, John Connor leads them.
They're going to be all intergalactic and shit.
Right. Like spacesuits and shit. They're going to be able to jump back and forth. They're going to have our brains in jars and all types of weird shit. Don't say that. Ugh. So you was just talking about your daughter who is Gen Z.
She is Gen Z.
And you said, I was looking up the definition of that, and it's funny how both of our said decade names are right next to each other, right? So let's see, Gen Z, this group of younger people is an interesting one. Ooh. They have been exposed to social media and were the first population to cope with cyberbullying and other internet-related issues. It was also during this time that school-related violence and climate crisis have become more prevalent. Okay.
So to an extent, we also dealt with cyberbullying. We've had our own in the early internet. So when
the internet was the Wild West.
Right. Exactly. So when we had MySpace, I'm sure there was some bullying going on there. In fact, if you wasn't in my top 8, guess what? I was automatically considered a bully. So
But you want to know what's funny?
Or you make people jump through hoops in order to be in your top 8.
Right. And I wasn't
I wasn't that person though.
We talking the good days though, like MySpace and Black Planet and Niente, and I heard it was like Asian Avenue or something like that. I couldn't get down with them. I think they were just too underground for me.
First of all, I was lucky to have a MySpace, okay? I was lucky to have a MySpace. And then when I tried to create my Black Planet page, so where our computers were, it was so everybody could see what you're doing because, my strict parents, strict upbringing.
Oh, you guys had a computer in your house?
We had, yeah. So
Well, that's a good thing.
At one point, we had, I remember the IBM, and that was like in a den or whatever. But
IBM.
yeah, man. And then we had 2 computers when we moved to the bigger space. So anyway, by then, that's when I decided to be. No, actually, my dad built one. So he bought my mom one, and then he was taking a class, and he built the other one.
Damn, and that's far and few.
Right.
Over here.
Right.
Like, it's far and few. You know,
right.
Build your own computer. Like, I'm not paying all that money for that. I just built this shit.
Yep. That's exactly what he did, too. He took the parts, built it, put it together, all the shits. But anyway, the day I decided to finally create my Black Planet page, so I'm in the little, I don't know, the hallway where the computers are. Because it's a big hallway. Because it had like a nook for the computers. My parents' bedroom is on one side. Me and my brother's bedrooms are on the other side. And next thing you know, I heard some Barry White. And I was just like, oh, Barry White. I love Barry White. And then I started hearing, I was like, oh, shit. I had to run downstairs. And then it all made sense because I'm like, my dad had came home. He looked at, because I was downstairs initially watching TV. My dad had came home and he was like, I'm going to go upstairs. Your mom's having trouble sleeping. That didn't ring a bell. Because mind you, I'm like,
close the door.
Right, exactly.
Let me give you what you waiting
I was like 15,
for.
16. So I didn't know. Like, I was very naive.
How old were you?
15, 16. I was very naive. Strict upbringing.
We're going to have to get into that.
Remember, I told you, my mother always said, yeah, you're book smart, but you're not street smart. And they made it that way on purpose. Like, I don't know why. Wow. It's wild. So I heard Barry White.
Going to blow up.
So I heard Barry White. I was like, yeah, I love Barry White. Then I heard other shit, and I ran downstairs. I'm like, oh shit. And then I pieced it together later. I'm like, dude, like my dad came in from work. He went upstairs. And then when he came back down in his boxers for some juice. So I'm just like, oh shit.
Walked up to you like, so how do you feel about having another little brother?
Nope. The fuck we not.
You didn't even know. You didn't matter.
I didn't know. And at that point I didn't want to know. Man, listen.
15, 16. Wow.
Yeah. 15, 16.
That's insane because I think around that time, our generation was a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us are pretty well versed.
So let me put it to you this way. My mom decided that I wasn't going to do sex ed in school. She was going to teach me herself.
Okay.
Do
kids even still have sex ed? You just had a kid that graduated. Okay.
They do. They have sex ed. But of course, that varies between the school systems and all of that. And then by the time you get to high school, they'll be like, here, just use a condom and practice using a condom. And that's pretty much the end of it. So my mom decided that she was going to just teach me herself. So she taught me herself. Now remember.
How weird was that?
It was actually, it bordered on trauma.
It bordered on trauma.
It very much bordered on trauma because like so she gave me this book. We went over this book like every week or whatever. And there was a diagram of the genitals. So she was like, all right. And at one point, it got to the point where she was literally like, all right, you should be able to take a mirror and identify everything. And she made me do it in front of her. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's trauma.
Okay. Like, I don't even feel like asking the questions because I feel dirty asking. We're adults and stuff, but it's like, yo. I was
young. I was not 15. I was younger than that. So yeah, that's why I said it bordered on trauma because I'm like, yo, like.
I don't want to show you my stuff.
Right.
Then it give you the classic. I know everything you got.
Right.
Like,
right. So, yeah, but anyway.
That's something.
So, yeah, it was very cut and dry. And then, like I said, on top of it, I didn't have anything to give me a hint because I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies until I was like 16, 17. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that because
all the music I did, all the music I listened to, it was on the radio.
You bought all your music from Sam Goody. You bought all your
I did go to Sam Goody and Coconuts.
I bet. It sounds like it. Yo, and that's the thing. They don't be giving, us as millennials, and I'm getting used to saying that term, millennials. It's like we don't get the credit. We don't get the credit for it. Like, we're the fucking daywalkers of this shit. You know what I'm saying? You probably never saw Blade either, so I'm gonna have to explain that. So Blade was the vampire who walked in the sunlight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As the other vampires couldn't do that.
Right.
Blade was on some other shit. He was just extra cool. Wesley. But they consider him the daywalker. He could do both. So. With us, it's like, we was here since the beginning of this internet shit.
Right.
So it's like, and I say all the time, it's stuff that is just buried into our subconscious when it comes to this internet shit.
Right.
So no matter what, can you imagine when we get older, it's just like, you're still going to be like, I'll be kicked back, get dementia, and I'll probably still be on my laptop like, hey, baby, ASL.
Right.
Like, what I'm saying? Using all types of little slang like that. And it was just that. It was just like you would be in like a chat, America Online, get the little disc in the newspaper. You know what I'm saying? If you had internet connection. My dumbass, we had the oldest computer ever. There was no Ethernet port. There was no nothing.
No.
So all my internet action was at my friend's house. And his mom's is, so cool. She was barely there. Right? And it was just like, have fun, do whatever. This is the internet. This is the computer. You're supposed to know how to do this. And it was like, yeah.
No, my dad made it very clear. He's like, I can see everything you do. Like, my dad was my first hacker. Okay. That's crazy. That's how I got busted in like being in like certain situations. I wasn't supposed to like having a boyfriend and all of that. She was like, I saw all the emails.
Yo, your pop sound like that episode of The Simpsons when Ned Flanders was holding up the sign like Jesus is watching.
Yup.
But
it was Dad. Dad was watching.
Bro,
Jesus.
That's fucking wild.
And then it got to the point, because I would be on AIM. I would be on AIM
right,
all night.
Yeah.
And I'm going back and forth. And I know how to type because we had typing in school, which, by the way, they don't have that now. They don't have typing in school.
Because kids come out the womb knowing how to type.
No, they don't know how to type. My child still hunts and pecks. That's what they called it, hunt and peck.
Yeah, me too. Just because I look like I'm doing it, trust me, these fingers are like this.
No.
Fucking
no,
man.
Man.
Up the wolf pack.
My mom made sure like that I took that typing class seriously because she was a secretary. My mom could type 70, 80 words a minute. Like, she's ridiculous.
I think I'm like 25 or like 31 or something like that.
I'm at like 67 words per minute.
Yeah, everybody's housing me. So. And I took a class to do that. I remember like it was like Urban League or something. I was like a freshman and we had to do all of this shit. But it's like I could skate around you on the internet. Hey, we going to Newgrounds, we going to Nude Africa, we going MySpace, we doing all of that.
I couldn't do any of that. But what my dad would do is I would be on AIM so late at night, and my dad had to get up early in the morning. So he put a timer on AIM for everything to just shut off after a certain time.
And what's crazy? You can kind of do that with your phones now. It's like, now that sounded like some real live Mission Impossible, shit back in the day. But now it's like, even with game systems and everything like that, shit, even, any situation.
That's all parental controls now.
Parental controls, or it's just built into whatever app. Like, hey, you want a timer on this? You want this? You want this? You want this? But yeah, that's, we're the daywalkers of this shit. Not just with the internet, but video games. Where we were able. I think, was it Sega CD? It was something very, very early where if you had an internet connection, you could plug it into the back of the game system and kind of play people wherever, but nobody wanted to do that shit back then.
I vaguely remember that, and it was a whole lot of fear behind it.
That
was around the same time. Maybe it was after Y2K.
It was around that time.
It was around Y2K.
Because I feel like because it might have been Sega Saturn or something.
Right.
Because it had the port, and it was like, one day.
I didn't have a Sega Saturn.
Me either. I got PlayStation. No, let me think. My mom bought me a PlayStation 1 when I was like in the 6th grade for almost making the honor roll. Shouts to her.
Sixth
right?
grade.
Like the 5th or 6th grade, and I had NBA Jam TE and Virtual Fighter, and I was the actual absolutely best fucking experience of my life. Is a disc, you put it in, the graphics were phenomenal.
I don't even remember. I don't even remember it being that early.
And it was out before that.
I
PlayStation and all of that.
I had no idea
That shit was old.
because listen, for me, life was Nintendo. Then my cousins had Nintendo. My one friend had Nintendo 64. My dad brought home a Sega
Genesis.
And then we had the PlayStation.
Tell you a little story about Sega Genesis and how my second oldest brother saved my cool. So whenever it came out, and I want to say we got it late, right? And whenever it came out, it's around Christmas, probably like 2 weeks before Christmas or something like that. I wasn't focused on that. I was making, construction paper stockings and shit like that, putting names on it, Grandma picked us up, we're going Christmas shopping. Not putting two and two together. We're going Christmas shopping for us. But Santa Claus is going to give it to you.
Right.
You got to be good in school. Got to do this. Got to do that. And
none of that.
It was always anxiety because the progress reports so conveniently came out right before Christmas.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, holy
that determines
shit.
the type of winter break you going to get too.
Right. So
you going to be on punishment all winter break?
Man, listen, we was in Toys R Us. The brown and orange Toys R Us. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And we sitting in front of the two displays. I think it was two of them. My oldest brother was like, yo, I dig this. Get TurboGrafx 16. It's the future. And I'm like, okay, this is my oldest brother. He's the cooler one. He plays, everybody knows him. He's the cool guy. I'm like, yeah, let me get TurboGrafx. My other brother is like, nah, Genesis is the way to go. TurboGrafx 16, Genesis. Oldest brother kind of fell out the race. Other brother, he's like, I'm telling you, Genesis is the way to go. Okay. Got the Genesis, got like Altered Beast and Sonic the Hedgehog or some shit like that. Needless to say, my second oldest brother was the right one. I'll give him that much credit. 'Cause I didn't care for him too much when I was younger. He always annoyed the hell out of me. So we always fought. We always did all this crazy stuff. But, we were kids, and he was right. I will say he was right because TurboGrafx 16 died like 2 days after Christmas.
Wow. Because I'm like, I never even heard of that.
TurboGrafx 16, and I was just like, damn, that's crazy how he just said, yo, I'm telling you, this is the one. And I was like, nah, whatever. Got that. But that was the Genesis story. But,
yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. We're supposed to be talking about parenting, but it's like this is a big part of our parenting because all this stuff that we did as kids, like it just said in the description, these are the first kids. What did it say? Let me go back so I'm not misquoting.
To deal with internet cyberbullying
and other internet related issues.
Right.
Whereas, like you said, it was a ton of shit going on when we was younger. I mean, that was one of the first things you did. You get AIM and all of that shit. I think I was getting ready to tell you,
right.
the disc and you put it in and,
right.
You get your minutes and all of that shit. And,
but you know what? It does make sense that it's saying that they're the first generation to deal with cyberbullying simply because the internet is much more easily accessible than it was then. And now we have social media. And I mean, we had social media back then, but it wasn't like this.
We had, I can't even remember.
It's a total evolution right now.
Big time.
So
big time, yeah.
At least with us, you might get kicked off the internet. So
could you? Like
no, I'm saying like, somebody pick up the phone in the house and you get kicked off the internet. So, and then that would be the end of whatever the fuck you're dealing with online.
See, now that's crazy because we didn't have the internet. I think I got the internet.
We had 2 phone lines.
That's what I was about to say because my buddy, he had the teen line or whatever.
Right.
And it was like when he was getting ready to hop on. And then it slowly became more popular to be on that line for your internet. And then, your parents got the house phone line and all of that stuff. So I'm like, all right, we was on there all day. I mean, even as kids, it was just like we're trying to set stuff up for the weekend because, we just met this girl from over here and, Then we had the cool.
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine all the shenanigans and fuckery you were involved in growing up.
It was a ton.
Because
it was a ton. It was a great time to be alive.
I didn't have a lot of that.
You should have came up the street.
Oh, well. I guess. Shit.
It's hilarious, though, because a lot, and again, maybe this is a part of parenting as millennials that I kind of got to look at from a different scope, because there's a lot of stuff that my kids see and go through, like, you know, simply playing online, playing a game online. It's like, I'm looking at it like, do you know how much other shit you could be doing online besides just playing with some jerk off from wherever?
Right.
You know what I mean? Then they got the voice changers, so it's grown ass men talking to kids. So I'm not really too privy on that aspect, but it's a lot of things as far as cyberbullying is concerned that I look at, and it's just like, yo, if somebody's talking shit online and they live
around the corner, right?
They live around the corner. That's one thing. If you figure out where they live, that's one thing. Is you go, check him out. But if they live in Switzerland or Portland, Oregon, whatever, it's like, don't listen.
But typically, cyberbullying is with people that you know. It's people that you go to school with that truly have a reason to bully you, unless you're an influencer or something. So,
and you know what else too? Social media actually mutated cyberbullying, because you can start a post on something or someone.
That's true.
And make it go, make it shareable.
That's
and
true.
They will dog pound your ass. And,
oh yeah, absolutely. That's what a lot of these influencers do. So they're, hey, look at this racist. Somebody find out who she is and report her. Yeah. Or, and yeah, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's crazy because, and nowadays you seeing like the little, well, I saw recently, it's like a lot of, was like social media warnings or something like that. That they started to like implement that now, and it's just like, well, if you're using social media for business or something like that, that's one thing. But if you're using it, if you just got friends, and that was the intention, right? I remember getting Facebook when I got to college, because that's the only way you get Facebook,
right?
And then it's like, okay, first it was like, you go to this college, you got this number,
right? Punch
it in. What the hell did they do with the locker? It used to be a locker on Facebook, and they just kind of got rid of it. Unless that was the friends list. I wasn't 100% sure how to function with Facebook at the time, but I remember you had to be in college in order to have a Facebook account. And then it slowly went from school to school. Then it was like, college to college. Then it was like every school or whatever. Then it just became this huge conglomerate of like just
open to everybody.
Everybody, ads, business, all types of stuff. They got whole fucking classes on Facebook ads and, shit like that. That goes on now. And I'm just like, wow, that shit really
took off.
You came a long way from Black Planet.
Right.
And like, what I'm saying? Putting your little code in there to get your little graphics and shit, make your little cool profile, play music and all of that shit. But now it's just like a complete and utter animal. And it just seems like they keep pumping this shit out. And it's a race for likes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a race for likes.
I mean, it's also a race for money too, because
yeah,
you got to give the apps permission to listen to you, and then you're running the ads and all the other shit. So,
I'm not against it, man, but it's just like,
it's a lot.
It's
a lot.
I remember getting into an argument with some guy. I think we were talking about rap. We were talking about rap or something. I think the subject was like Silk the Shocker or some shit like that. And I was just like, he just didn't get that much play out here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, oh, man, you're fucking crazy. This, that, and the third. Oh, where you from? Oh, that's why. Da, 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 da. I'm like, yes, that's exactly why. We didn't get fucking Silk the Shocker 24/7. He's whack.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm getting mad because I actually did like Silk the Shocker. But now I got to call him whack. You know what I'm saying?
And now you mad, and then you feel like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of asshole wears a summer in the Scully time? I mean, a summer in the Scully time. A Scully in the summertime. See, I was mad because it was like, and I'm like,
you still mad?
Well, I had to back up, right? I had to back up because it's like, well, wait a minute. I can't even see this fucking guy. Like, he's not real. The internet's not a real place. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's and I think that's what I try to tell, the boys and like my boys and stuff like that. Any kid is just like, why you take any of this shit serious? The internet's not a real place.
Right.
You're mad because some asshole on a farm with one internet connection in, Kansas said you're ugly. So what?
Right.
But he says I'm ugly every day.
But it's different if it's somebody that they know from school, though, because now they're getting it constantly at school, and then they go home and they hop on their social media or their internet, and it doesn't stop. It just continues. At least, with us, somebody was bullying us. You deal with it at school. You go home. Guess what? You ain't got to deal with it no more.
Yeah, till the next day.
You ain't got to worry about that shit no more.
I didn't have to do any of that shit because we didn't have the internet in our house. So that was it.
Right.
Like we really didn't have.
And we didn't get internet till later. So, till what? Teenage years? Something like that.
I'm still relatively new to the internet. I think I got internet. We got internet in my house because of my laptop that I bought. I forgot what kind of laptop it was, but it was like, I was like 21, 22 when I got, I knew how to navigate because, the libraries, that's another thing that went out with the times too. Is like with the internet and Google and all of this stuff, do we really need a Dewey Decimal System, card catalog and all of that stuff that they drilled into our heads, how to use them?
Well, they figured libraries would be forever. So, and it's still like a form of it online anyway. So
Right.
It's just you look up what you want. So
it's usually porn. It is.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with you. Anyway, we were talking about parenting, and one thing I want to say to you is I appreciate you taking your kid's call like right beforehand, like this.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like I said, we're both, like you said, we're both parents, and being a conscious parent or being, I forget what we were saying, but basically
conscious and it was like an unconscious parent and a conscious parent. This is a conversation before the show started, everybody. So don't think you're lost. We're just enjoying this trip down memory lane.
in the previous episode, I mentioned being an active parent.
Oh, right.
So
right.
basically, being available to listen to your kids or being available to see your kids, the change in their mood or how they carry themselves. So it was really dope to watch you do that. As you know.
Yeah.
So
I love my kids. You know what I'm saying? I love my kids, and the thing that really is a couple of, for me anyway, is a couple of factors, right? So like my dad never really, he worked all the time, but he never gave up on us as far as like, he thought it was important that there was a man figure in the house.
Right.
That being him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Set his examples. Him and my mother could go through a ton of shit, and he still maintained this image that stayed with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like they both had to understand it. And maybe that came from like their generational whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it was like, yeah, this is what they do. They stay together no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Because for the sake of the kids, in a sense.
Right.
That shit kind of went out the window with us. And
absolutely.
I'll tell you, well, me personally, it's because I'm not dealing with that shit.
Right.
And
we're the generation that is like, we do what makes us happy.
Right.
We're not going to be stuck in a miserable situation.
Right.
Exactly. And as millennials, like, we're like, hey, life is too short. I watched my mother be miserable. This didn't work out for her. She's still miserable. I'm suffering all this trauma, as the kid, as the product of that relationship that nobody wanted, So they're like, all right, I'm going to do things differently, And
my parents, I think all of that was planned, but then life happens, right?
Right. Life does happen. And then you get to the point where you love your spouse, but you don't like them anymore.
Yeah. Resentment from time to time.
All of the things comes with it. And so we as millennials, a lot of us, we're waiting longer to have kids. We want to figure out what's wrong with us and how to heal from it so we don't pass it on to our kids. Some of us, we're trying to heal like like traumas and stuff, and others of us we're trying to heal financially because we operate off of the scarcity mode.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, but and then with that perspective, many of us, not all of us, many of us were like, hey, I don't want to bring any kids into this world until I get my shit together because I dealt with a whole lot of shit that wasn't right, you know. So, I mean, it's a lot to do with it. So I know when I had my daughter early as shit, which is why I'm done.
Congratulations. A lot of
But
people are afraid to admit that, but
right,
congratulations.
right. I had her early, and also, in my opinion, probably too early. But that's how the universe lined up for me. So, but my goal was to always be the mother I wish I had growing up. So, I mean, not saying that my mother was a terrible mother or anything like that, but there are definitely things that I carry with me, and I have to step back and be like, okay, I don't want to pass this on to my kid. How do I change this? So, and I even had an ex-boyfriend that really kept it in check for me too, because I realized I said to him, I said, I don't want to be like my mother. This was my mother. My mother used to, at one point, my mother came in from work every day yelling and screaming. Every day yelling and screaming. We would scatter like roaches when she pulled in.
And that kind of thing sticks with you.
Right. It does stick with you. And I explained that to my ex. So then once he started seeing that pattern, he looked at me and he would be like, hey, yo, take this blunt, go sit in the corner. I'll go deal with this.
Put you in the corner.
Yep. He sure did put my ass in the corner. He was like, and I might keep going. No, da 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 da. He's like, nah. You said this is what you said you wanted better for your kid. This is how we're gonna do it. You're gonna sit here. You're gonna go smoke this blunt. I'll go deal with this, and then we could reconvene.
But what's crazy about what I think is crazy about millennials, and I give us credit because you deal with what you deal with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And nobody says it has to be pretty. Nobody says it has to be perfect. But I know, for instance, like me myself, I could deal with a lot of shit. And I'm definitely a person where it's like, okay, well, I made this decision and I'm gonna stick with it. Right. You know what I'm saying? But once you start crossing certain lines and doing certain things, it's all that shit goes out the window.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I remember being in a barbershop one time and heavy mental, and I'm just kind of just sitting there, and the barbershop is kind of like your first therapist, right?
Right.
Kind of just sitting there.
Right.
And I'm listening to everybody talk, and I thought it was just me, but it was like this one guy. He was, cutting hair. He's a barber, and he's like, "Yeah, man, you having that long ass day, and you don't feel like really doing shit, but you go home, you got to do shit, and she ain't gonna be happy, and she gonna be this, and she gonna be that." And it's like, of course, it was a one-sided thing, but when he was like, "That's why, man, you got to stop at the store." And kind of just sit in the car, get your head together. Yep. And it's just like, oh my God, this is a breakthrough. Like that's what I do. Raise my hand. Like that's what I do. And it's just like, yeah, man, you got to do it sometimes.
Absolutely.
For the sake of your own
especially if you have a house full of people. I have a cousin that doesn't have any kids, and when she was living at home, it was her mom, her dad, her sisters, her cousin, her niece, her nephew. Yeah, she would get home from work and she would sit in her car for like an hour or two just talking with us on Marco Polo just to vent. Marco Polo, yeah. Just to relieve her stress. Cause she's like, nah, she's like, I need to go in here because, she's like, I'm sitting here because before I go in there and deal with that,
you gotta get your head right.
You gotta get your head right because you don't want to bring work home.
And the sad part about it is, it's like, and most people got a vice they cope, right? Whether it be drinking, whether it be smoking, something. Everybody has a vice or something, and most of the times it's not healthy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, how do I say it? I've never been to therapy, so I don't know what they suggest. You know what I mean? But I know it's kind of getting better. Some people who I talk to that go to therapy, without saying it, they're like, well, before I go home, I take a walk over here.
Right.
Or before I go home, I sit at the park and look at this. Or
right.
I go to the gym, I do this, I do that. And I'm like, all of these things are good. It just didn't work for me. You know what I'm saying? And it was like,
I mean, you gotta find whatever your thing is.
yeah, even if it kills you.
Because one perspective that it was given to me. So what I like to do, I occasionally like to meditate. I definitely feel like I should meditate more often, but nonetheless, I try to get in where I fit in. But it was put into a way of, for meditating, just take a moment where you don't owe anyone anything.
Mm.
So as long as, and just make it completely for you, make it completely about you, make it your favorite thing, whatever the case is. So just take a moment and that you don't owe anyone anything, that you're not thinking about, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. No, your thoughts are completely with you, completely blank, or whatever the case is. It's not wandering and stressing you out to all the shit that you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a perspective to take. Just take a moment where you owe no one nothing.
That kind of reminds me of something a buddy of mine. We had like a, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like male bonding kind of thing. We went out to some restaurant. We drank. We had duck wings. It was like, this is cool. But it was like, hadn't seen him in a while, so we was kind of like catching up and everything like that. Like our families know each other, so it was kind of like, how's this, how's that, and then we started getting into the nit grit because he lost his dad, I lost my dad,
right?
Drinking and kind of bonding over that kind of thing. He came up with this quote in the moment, I guess, and actually he had been working on it, and he kind of just like laid it on me, like, sometimes you just got to be still.
Oh yeah.
And I hadn't heard of it.
I 100% agree with that. I've heard that.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. I don't know, like what I advocate reading often. As a matter of fact, I'm reading not the 5 a.m. Club. I'm reading what's the book I said I was reading that I need to get back into? Atomic Habits.
Oh, okay.
Even through that, I realized that routine helps with this kind of thing too.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what he was reading. I don't know where he got it from, because you said you heard it too. But he was like really just laying into like, yeah, you just got to be still, man. Like nothing matters. Just be still.
I mean, I've heard it in several different contexts. People who are like Bible thumpers.
Bible thumpers. Okay.
Bible thumpers. Your Bible thumpers. They'll, they say, peace, be still.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even that, like, just be still to obtain the peace that you need in that moment, is how I've always interpreted that particular context. But there's so many other forms and contexts. Probably, I'm sure in Buddhism and Hinduism, they also encourage for you to be still.
Mm-hmm.
But
you know what? It's and maybe this is a part because us as millennial parents and things like that. I didn't have a problem, and this is going to sound so bad. I didn't have a problem with life until my ex-wife really started like tripping. And I think that's because I didn't understand her. And I'm just not a confrontational kind of person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Again, I got a lot of barriers you got to break through before you really get to my core.
Right.
So it was almost as if she went for every last one of those barriers. And she almost got there. But I'll self-destruct before any of that happens.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'll straight up pull the plug. And, that was another reason, like you said, the phone call is like, I had to make a decision for myself and the boys,
right?
To want to be around and in a healthy manner,
right?
You know what I mean? So when I decided to get divorced, that affected them so bad,
right?
You know what I mean? And I was just, I felt terrible. I felt like shit for the longest time,
right?
Because I'm not at the house with my boys. I don't get a chance to pull up anymore, and they in the window like, oh, Dad, and
right.
We ain't doing none of that no more. You know what I'm saying? So, and it made it twice as bad because me and their mom is beefing, so I don't like looking at her.
Right.
It just it's just boiling blood at that point.
Right.
And they didn't know per se, but I'm 100% they felt it.
Right.
And I just didn't want that for them because again, my dad didn't do that to us.
Right.
And I feel like my parents were to me, the example of how a couple deals with a lot of shit. Because it wasn't, growing up, I remember getting ass whoopings, but I also remember having fun. And
Right.
I remember seeing arguments.
Yeah.
And you kind of watch that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's hard too. That was another thing.
That wasn't so hard to me, but go ahead.
Well, no, that was another thing. I saw. It wasn't often. My parents didn't argue in front of us often, but it was enough to make me be the type of person. I don't argue in front of my child.
I tried not to. I try not to.
I don't argue especially when she was little.
Mm-hmm.
That's if I needed to have an argument, I tell the kid, "Hey, go hang out in your room," and then we would go to a completely different section of the house, maybe the basement, maybe outside, and we would have the argument. But my child was never going to hear me go crazy and raise my voice. I wasn't going to do that to her. So, I mean, I strived so hard in these 18 years that I was just like, this is what I want my child to see. This is what I don't want her to see. I want to be a good example, XYZ. You know what I mean? So for example, if I'm not happy in a relationship, I'm not staying.
Mm-hmm.
Because why be miserable in a relationship? Why settle? Your worth is not based on you being in a relationship. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's how I was raised very religious, and yeah, you as a woman, your relationship status, it matters. So
yeah, I mean, it still kind of does.
But you're worthless if you're not somebody's wife and worshiping God.
Well,
basically.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't going to do that, and I'm not going to sit there with somebody unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that.
I mean, but it's one thing for one person to be unhappy for their own personal reasons, but because you can't, I understood marriage as this. It's two people, right? You guys make a commitment to jump into one vessel and ride out the rest of your lives together. Right. That's how I understood marriage. In real life, there's a lot of other factors that go into that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you only get those lessons as an adult from your parents, but even that's coming from an older book.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I remember it wasn't even really bumps in the roads. I would get sneak dissed by my ex-wife. You know what I'm saying? I would go visit my mom, or I'm picking up the boys when they was babies. I'm getting off work. I go pick them up, and it's just moms will call you into the room, and it's just yeah, so whoop-de-woo, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, she told you that? And it's yeah. And I was yeah, I don't care, ma. You know what I'm saying? I'm I don't care. And it was yeah, well, she does, and maybe you should. And I'm the only reason I'm upset is because.
Why'd you go to my mother and not say it to me?
Exactly.
Why you got to go around about?
Don't paint me to be the monster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you got an issue that you're not, and if I ask you what's going on, if I ask you what's wrong,
right,
and you tell me nothing, and then 1-2 days later, it's that's definitely a red. I mean, it's a red flag, and sometimes I might double dare that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or sometimes I take it as you know what, you done dealt with this shit before, so this is definitely. And I don't want to judge people. Once you start showing me certain patterns, that's definitely a flag on the play, and I'm just not dealing with that shit. When women tell me they're crazy, I take your word for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? 'Cause
right.
It's I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with this shit again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they should probably take that out of their profiles and all of that kind of stuff, because it's not cute. You know what I'm saying? When you're an adult, that shit is not cute, and if you like that, you're asking for a toxic relationship.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And don't go on social media and complain about being in a toxic relationship where you saw the fucking boat coming. Right. You know what I mean?
With all the red flags.
With every the sail is red.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Don't go out there and start talking that Chicago bullshit on social media. Oh my God, I didn't know, I didn't see it coming, and it's nah. He like that shit, you like that shit, and this is a part of it. Right. You know what I'm saying? This is a part of your thing.
Now this is where you're at.
So
what you going to do? You going to sink or swim?
And I will swim away.
Right.
From the situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's it's not, what's that word they like to use? Fight or flight. Because in that sense, it's nah, this is survival. If you want to talk, mental health and everything like that, at that point, that's where you got to become selfish, because that shit'll work on you over the years.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I'm saying? And that shit'll break you down like something serious.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, and these are the things that I want to like tell my kids. Like, yo, you're not. I tell my kids all the time, like, nobody gives a fuck about what you want to do more than you.
Right.
And I'd like to think that I'm guiding you in the direction to do something that might change the world. That just might just make you happy. But the moment somebody steps in between that shit and decides that that's not what you should be doing, then you need to get the fuck away from that person.
Yep.
Straight up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But that's my dub talk. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to, because I could go on and on about that kind of stuff, because it's a love-hate relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, I don't bump heads with my ex-wife or anything like that. It's actually very cordial, but, you know, it was just little things like that I don't think are talked about enough when you talk about, you know, being married as a millennial, being an adult as a millennial,
being divorced.
Being divorced, that whole process. I don't even want to talk about that. And shouts to her, because she did some stand-up shit, but being a black man in this state, in that county, it didn't matter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I'm just like, yeah, that's shit ain't a movie. Shit is not a movie.
It sure isn't. And nothing goes as planned.
Nothing goes as planned, absolutely.
What do the religious people say?
Shouts for that. Nothing goes as planned.
Nothing goes as planned.
You get an applause for that one.
What do they say? You want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. Tell him your plans.
Yeah, I'm not very religious at all.
I'm not religious at all. But I am around enough religious people that...
You drop mad Bible jewels, bro. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not very religious, but, you know.
I'm not.
Proverbs.
I am not. Like, listen. When you have the upbringing that I had and shit is just drilled in you to the point where now that's your reasoning for not doing shit. Like, ayo, I would be talking to my parents and be like, hey, you know... I would bring up a memory, like say, hey, we wasn't allowed to do this. Oh, you were allowed to do it. You just never asked. And I'm like, but the religion drilled into my head, hey.
The religion. Y'all was drinking a lot of Kool-Aid and stuff that? Like,
it was the purplest Kool-Aid. The purpliest Kool-Aid.
Not purple Saurus.
Yes, we was drinking straight Barney juice, okay? All day, every day.
I think that's a big part about millennials. Not all of them, but I think, you know, as prominent as it was as kids, that's definitely...
We got away from it. We got away from it because we saw the bullshit.
Well, some people need... I ain't gonna lie, some people need it because, again, I'm not very religious.
That's fine. If you need it, you need it. But at the same time, like... don't run around shoving it down everybody's throat.
Absolutely.
Because my grandmother always said, live and let live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
So, and some things she would look at, she'd be like, live and let live, but that shit ain't for me. And she would keep it moving and go about the business that paid her. So,
let me tell you something. My mom used to drop certain quotes on me that stuck, right? And one of them was... You like it? I love it. I ain't got to deal with that shit.
Right.
Just like that. And the other one was, you know.
But that's cultural, though. That's cultural with black folks, though. Because we all say you like it, I love it. What really we mean.
That's some dumb shit.
That's some dumb shit.
If you want to do it, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to be over here.
Right. I don't want no parts.
Or if I'm your friend, I'll be over here to pick up the pieces when you done bullshitting.
And so, you know, even at this point in my life, it's like when you want. I think you said one time, you know, you play dumb games, you win dumb prizes.
Oh yeah.
I
just said that this morning too.
Oh, did you?
I did.
I didn't speak to her this morning. I just let you know. You know, but for real, I'm like, you know, I'm really, really, really big into the idea of like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, not literally, but kind of like a quote to live by is like write your own book. You know, because it's like a lot of shit just don't be working. I think me and you was having a conversation over the weekend about like, you know, and I'm going to compare it to this. It was about like working out. And it was like, you know, they'll always show you the super duper fit motherfucker doing crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? And his, this motherfucker shredded and, yeah, guys, I do fucking 48,000 push-ups in the morning, 68,000 fucking sit-ups at night. I don't, I eat a cracker for lunch with a little bit of, cottage cheese on it. If that's what you do, because number one, I'm like, all right, this is an ad. They're selling something. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, I think show me the journey. Show me the journey. Show me.
Right.
You'd probably sell me more if you showed me you as like, a fat tubby piece of shit and you went through the process. Because I'm not saying it doesn't work.
Right.
But what I am saying is show me the truth.
Right.
Walk through that process. Show me everything. Show me the fat shit. Show me falling out. Show me throwing up. Show me all of that so I can know what to expect on this journey. Right. And then come here and show me the cool shit and the suits and, bitches in bikinis all around you and shit like that. Do that shit afterwards and shit. Show me the ugly shit first. But, it's like that, right? But I said all of that to say, people, all of that stuff don't work for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is why there's 1,000 different methods.
Right.
Because his didn't work. Yeah, his didn't work because of this. Try my method. Write your own fucking method down.
Yep.
And do your shit.
Yep. Do what works for you.
But you got to find out what works for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, I went through something kind of similar too. Like I've gained weight. I was probably the heaviest I ever weighed, and I'm like, all right. So I went through a breakup. Once I went through the breakup and I moved in with my grandmother, I changed my eating habits. Okay. That happens. Yep. Before my eating habits, I used to have like 3 to 5 cans of soda a day. I would eat after midnight. I would sleep whenever. I would go all day without eating until one meal or whatever. And that was the heaviest I ever was. And I'm like, we gotta do something about this shit. So once I got out of my relationship, I started drinking water every day. Okay. I drank more water and I cut out the soda. Okay. Then from there, I stopped eating after a certain time. And then by the time I got my own place, it evolved. So now I'm drinking water before bed and as soon as I wake up. I kickstart my metabolism. I was working out in the morning because I had time then. I used to work for a doctor's office. I didn't have to be in until like 9:30.
Right.
So I would get up 6 a.m., water, oatmeal, meditate, yoga, shower, out the door.
And that's some real shit because you ran that shit right down the line.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's your thing.
Right. And also, I would pack my lunch instead of eating out every day. I used to eat out a lot. So from there,
that's another thing that us millennials fell sorely victim to, eating out every day, especially like as adults.
Right.
I could name
30
people.
By the time we got to high school, they took home ec out.
Home ec was gone, but I mean, granted, everybody can't cook, but everybody should know their way around the kitchen a little bit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then even with that being said.
But there's still a lot of us that don't.
Right. Exactly. And at that point, it's really just your fault, right?
Right.
I was thinking to myself the other day, I was like, Fridays was for pizza. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Fridays was pizza.
We had pizza on Fridays. We would have something else out to eat on Saturday, and then Sunday was family dinner.
The big dinner.
Mom Dukes cooked dinner on Sunday,
right? And
then the leftovers from Sunday would go into Monday.
Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, the latest.
Right.
If you pack it up right in the back of the fridge.
Well, we were a family of 4, so leftovers didn't go past Monday.
Got you. Okay.
That means somebody had to cook on Tuesday.
Right. But that's the rotation.
Right. Tuesday, Wednesday.
That shit getting low, you got to replace it.
Right.
Straight up.
Right. So, and then with us, with religion, we wouldn't get done with our meeting until like 9:00 at night. So Thursday we had Wendy's or Roy Rogers. They put a Roy Rogers not far from me, and then it closed down within a year, and they put a Wendy's there instead.
It was one out here. They did the same thing too. I was like,
yo, man. I saw Roy Rogers. I got happy as hell. I was ready to do backflips.
Hold on. I hope everybody enjoyed the show because I know this is the hour edition. You know what I'm saying? This is the hour edition because everybody was getting in their bag for a hot second. But dig, we're gonna let y'all go. Hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, if you got a comment, hit the comment section or hit us up in the email, dubtapepodcast@gmail.com. We're gonna break up out of here and we're gonna see y'all again some other time, probably next week, when we do some more shit. All right. So signing off, it's your boy Supreme Poobah Supreme, Ruby Craft, because she don't remember her name a lot of the times. And this is the Dub Tape Podcast, and we out.
Yeah.